Some stories crack under pressure. This one shatters, then rebuilds. Hi, and welcome to this Podfic recording of Whispers of the Wild, written and read by me, DreamerAxie. This is a Percy Jackson fanfic about what happens when change comes from the inside out. This chapter contains themes of anxiety, fear, and emotional overload, including moments of self-concealment, accidental intimidation, and the fear of becoming something unrecognizable. Please listen with care and take breaks if you need to. You're about to listen to Chapter 4, The Weight of Fear. Let's begin. Nico couldn't sit still, even less so than his usual ADHD accounted for. He'd tried. Gods, he'd really tried. He'd even made it 10 whole minutes lying on his bed in cabin 13, staring at the ceiling like maybe if he glared hard enough, it would shatter. But the tension under his skin was unbearable. So now, he paced. Back and forth, sharp and slow, like something was tugging him by a string he couldn't see. He didn't notice how tight his fists had curled until his nails dug into his palms. It wasn't just restlessness. It was need. A primal, bone-deep itch to move, to run, to find the edge of the trees and vanish into the shadows between them. And the worst part, it didn't feel unfamiliar. It felt like home. He hated that. Nico stopped for half a second, breathing heavy. Then turned on his heel and kept going. The floorboards creaked with every step, rhythmic like a heartbeat, or a warning. He caught his reflection in the cabin's dusty window, eyes ringed darker than usual, shoulders tense like he was preparing for a fight, or a chase. What was wrong with him? His shadows clung a little closer lately. Even now, the dim light in the room bent ever so slightly towards his feet, like it recognized his imbalance and wanted to ground him, or drag him under. He shoved open the cabin door and stepped into the sunlight, like it might burn the thoughts away. It didn't. The pacing continued, now in the clearing, boots carving circles in the dirt around the back of cabin 13. Back and forth, back and forth. If someone saw him like this, they'd think he was losing it. Maybe he was. He wasn't sure how long he'd been pacing outside cabin 13, but the sun had shifted, and the shadows stretched longer now, like they were reaching with him. When the snap of a twig cracked the silence, he whirled on instinct. Will stood there, one hand raised in a half wave, a confused but soft expression on his face. "Hey, didn't mean to sneak up on you." The words didn't register at first. Not really. Nico's body had already moved before his brain caught up. His shoulders locked. Weight shifted on the balls of his feet like he was ready to pounce or bolt. His jaw clenched. Then came the sound. Low, barely there. A growl. Nico froze. Will blinked, stunned. "Did you just—" "I didn't mean to," Nico cut in, the words sharp and fast, too loud in the silence that followed. He stepped back immediately, like distance might undo it. Will tilted his head. Not quite afraid, but concerned, watching him carefully now, like Nico was a live wire he wasn't sure how to touch. The worst part, Nico could still feel it. That instinct, snarling under his skin, Will's scent, warm sun and something wild, made his nerves spark like static. He hated it. Hated how it felt like a challenge. Like something, not him, was measuring the distance between them and choosing fight over flight. "Sorry," Nico muttered, fists tightening at his sides. I didn't mean to do that." "You okay?" Will asked, cautious but steady. "No. Absolutely not." But Nico nodded just once, curt and unconvincing, before turning sharply on his heel before freezing mid-step. The tension that had been coiled in his limbs went taut, breath hitching as something shifted in the air between them. The warmth of the sun, the hum of the camp, even the scent of the woods behind cabin 13. It all dropped away as his senses sharpened like a blade. He smelled it, faint but unmistakable. Fear. Not just any fear. Will's fear. It hit him like a gut punch Sharp and metallic, threaded through the faintest scent of lemon soap and healing herbs, Will always carried with him. The animal part of Nico, whatever was clawing its way to the surface, responded. He went still. Too still. Will hadn't moved, hadn't said anything, but Nico's eyes flicked to him with the same slow precision a predator might use when something small rustled nearby. Will looked pale, his smile stretched thin, frozen like he didn't know whether to step forward or back, and for a fraction of a second, Nico's chest ached, because Will was afraid of him. Nico blinked, suddenly aware of his clenched hands, the fact he'd been pacing like something caged, the loud growl still coiled too close to the back of his throat. Will? His voice came out low, rougher than he'd meant it to. I didn't mean... Will startled just slightly, then shook his head quickly, too quickly. No, it's nothing. I'm fine. His voice cracked with false brightness, like a dog trying to wag its tail after baring its teeth by accident. Just surprised, I guess. But Nico could still smell it, and it made something in him want to run, or disappear, or scream, and for once, he listened. Not to logic, not to Will's voice, not even to the guilt churning deep in his gut. He listened to the instinct, and he ran. Boots thudded against the dirt, shadows flaring at his heels like smoke in his wake. Nico didn't look back, didn't wait for Will to call after him, didn't even think. He just moved, away from the cabin, away from the scent of fear clinging too tightly to the one person he'd never meant to scare, away from the weight of control he was losing, breath by breath. He didn't know where he was going, only that it had to be somewhere else, somewhere quiet, someone no one could see him unravel. The trees blurred past in streaks of green and gold, sunlight slanting through the canopy above, too bright for the mood crashing through his ribs. The world smelled too much, pine and moss and the lingering scent of campers from earlier patrols. Everything was sharper, louder, wrong. By the time he stopped, he was deep in the woods, his chest heaving, hands shaking like he hadn't fully outrun whatever this was. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, half panic, half something older, something deeper, that still hadn't let go. He doubled over, bracing his hands on his knees. Get it together, he muttered to himself, voice hoarse. You're not... He didn't finish the sentence, because he didn't know what he was anymore. And gods, he was so tired of being afraid of himself. Dude, you look like you just lost a fight with a werewolf. Or maybe you are a werewolf. Nico startled. He hadn't heard Leo approach, which was saying something, considering Leo's usual volume was somewhere between mild engine rev and full-blown explosion. He whipped around, shadows flickering sharply at his feet before they fizzled out. Leo held up his hands, half joking, half genuine. Hey, chill, it's just me. A beat. Unless, like, your murder senses are acting up, in which case, I was never here. Nico scowled, trying to smooth the panic off his face, but his shoulders were still tight, still too coiled to pretend this was nothing. Leo didn't push. He just rocked back on his heels, scanning Nico up and down. You ran off so fast, I thought someone set your pants on fire. And trust me, I'd know. Leo. Okay, joking subroutines disengaged. He tilted his head. You alright, man? Nico didn't answer right away. He wasn't sure what the answer would be. His hands still shook, his skin still crawled. Somewhere, deep inside, that pacing, primal part of him still wanted to run again. Away from Leo this time, just to be alone. But Leo's eyes weren't afraid. Not cautious, not confused, just concerned. And still very much Leo. That made it harder to lie. No, Nico finally admitted, voice quiet. Not really. Leo's grin softened. Yeah, figured. He dropped to sit cross-legged on the nearest rock, arms resting on his knees like they had all the time in the world. You want to talk about it? He asked. Or just want to sit here and pretend I'm a raccoon you're ignoring? Nico didn't sit right away. He stood tense for a few more seconds. Then, with a sigh like a storm giving up, he dropped beside Leo, shadows curling close but no longer snapping. And everything spilled out. Not neatly, not in order, but in a low, cracked voice that didn't bother hiding the tremble. Nico told him how his skin felt too tight, like it didn't quite fit, how sounds were too loud and smells too sharp, how he kept pacing without realizing, kept bristling at people who got too close, even Will, especially Will. I growled at him, Nico said at one point, hands curling into fists in his lap. I don't even know why. He said something, got too close, and I just snapped, like some kind of animal, Leo offered gently. Nico blinked at him, startled. Leo gave a half shrug. Dude, I've been watching you skulk around camp for days. You're basically the poster child for about to pounce, and I've had cats. You've got vibes. Nico let out a laugh, not a happy one, more like something startled out of him under pressure. I scared him, he whispered. Will looked at me like he didn't know who I was, like he wanted to run. Leo was quiet for a bit, and then softly, yeah, and you ran. Nico flinched. I'm not blaming you, Leo said quickly. I just mean, that's how I know you're still you. If you were some kind of monster, you wouldn't care that you scared him. But you do. That counts for a lot. Nico stared at the ground. His voice was a whisper. What if I am turning into a monster? Leo nudged with his shoulder. Then we're all monsters, because, spoiler alert, I've got fire coming out of my hands sometimes, and I still make a killer grilled cheese. Point is, we're more than the freaky parts. He paused. Also, you're not the only one going through weird changes. I've been waking up with sparks in my hair. Like, literal sparks. The other day, I nearly short-circuited my toothbrush. Nico finally looked over at him. You brushing your teeth with machinery? Leo smirked. Listen, I got bored, and toothbrushes are criminally unoptimized. Another pause, softer, more honest. You're not alone, okay? Nico didn't respond right away, but this time, when the shadows curled around them again, they didn't feel like walls, just something familiar, something safe, something a little less monstrous. Thank you for listening to Chapter 4 of Whispers of the Wild. This story is Book 1 in the Wildcurse Chronicles, a long-form project from the DreamerAxie library. If this chapter felt heavy, you're not alone. Sometimes the fear isn't what's chasing us, but what we're becoming. If you ever run from yourself and come back softer, this story is for you. This story was written with care, and maybe, just maybe, it finds you when you need it most. Take care of yourself, and take care of each other. See you in the wilds.